Hello friends, EJ here from the back porch again, and my intention today is to answer a question I hear quite often, and the question is, how do you be a picker? How are you an antique store dealer? How are you an antique store owner, and how do you make any money at it? Now, first off, I'd like to refer you back to a couple of videos. There's a couple of videos that are kind of prerequisites to this. We have a video about picking an antique store. Check that one out. We also have a video about reference books. Both of those are good videos, and I want to reference those so that I don't be redundant in this video. So go back and check those out if you get the chance. But the first thing that I want to highlight, which is probably if you're in this for the long run, if you want to make a living of this, or if you want to make a good side hustle out of this, the first thing that you need to know is that you need to be a reputable individual, an honest person, an honest dealer, somebody that has a good ethic when it comes to buying and selling things. If you do not have good ethic, that makes you a horrible person. Well, maybe not an extremely horrible person, but it's always better to be on the good side of things than on the bad side of things, right? Everybody likes to deal with a good guy. But even on the selfish side of that equation, if you don't treat people well, then they're not going to be repeat customers. If you rip somebody off, they're not going to bring you something the next time. But if you treat somebody right, if you go a little above and beyond, if you pay them just a little bit more, then they might be repeat customers. Instead of making $500 off of them one time, maybe that your relationship can work together and you'll make $100 from 15 or 20 times. It works out better in the long run. Plus, you don't have to be looking over your shoulder for somebody trying to knock you in the head because you stole something from them. So the most important thing that you need to know is that you need to be an ethical dealer. That brings me to the next point. Second, you need to have the knowledge. You need to do the homework. You need to know what you're looking for. There are several ways to do that. Again, see that reference video that I told you about. Also, be digging into YouTube videos and things that you can learn about the picking trade and the things that you're picking and things like that. Next, it is important, I think, a very important point for being a successful picker or a successful antique store owner or dealer, any of those, is don't make all the money so that you can make a lot of money. That's my little tag phrase there. And what that means is if I buy something and I place it at full retail in my store, yes, I may sell it, but I have limited my audience. I've limited those who are buying from me to those who are collectors. If I back that off to say 75% of retail, there may be another dealer that comes in and will buy what it is that I'm selling as a reseller, which is where you want to be, because if you do that, you've got a larger market to sell things to. So again, if you want to make good money, don't make all the money. Leave some meat on the bone for those who come behind you. Now I'd like to show you just a little bit about some of the things that you should look for. And I want to highlight my point about not making all the money in order to make a lot of money. But along with that comes the fact that you should, I'm also a firefighter, some of you may know that, and there's this tag phrase in the fire service about risk versus reward, okay? And in the fire service, that's along the lines of, if a building is all the way in flames, you don't want to attack it interior because you're not going to gain anything anyway. So the thought is, if you can gain a lot of reward, then you take a lot of risk. The same thing is true in buying and selling antiques and vintage items. So imagine the fact that if I can buy something that I can sell quickly, then I can afford to pay more money for it on the top end. It's kind of a compound interest type thing. Because I can take, say, $100, make 20 on it, and then take $120 and make 40 on it, those sorts of things. Rolling it over quickly is pretty important. But if it's something that there's quite a bit of potential at, but it's going to take me a long time to sell it, then I can't afford to pay as much for it. All right, I'll give you some examples. So I'm strolling through the antique store or the flea market, and I run across a shiny old hatchet. So I pick it up, and I'm checking it out. Obviously, somebody's done good work on this. They've put a new handle in it. But then I see the label here that says Bluegrass. I know that in my store, Bluegrass tools, Bluegrass brand tools, sell really well. And I have 3 buyers already that I can think of right off the bat who will buy Bluegrass brand tools. One of them is my toolman dealer, Jack. If you know anything about our store, you know we've got lots of cool tools in our store, and this is actually one that Jack has redone, and he likes bluegrass tools. So if I find a good bluegrass hatchet, I can buy it for say 80% of retail, and I can make $10 on it as soon as I see Jack, which is also a good thing because I know that Jack's going to take care of me. He's going to clean it up. He's going to come back, bring it back to my store probably, and resell it through me, and I can benefit from that too because I'm getting commission off of his sales as well as rent from his booth space. So I'm taking care of my vendor, he's taking care of me, all because I knew to grab that up at say 80 to 85% of retail and sell it to Jack for just a little bit of profit, and he's going to take care of me for finding it for him, and then he's going to go back and clean it up and sell it and make quite a bit of money. So I'm strolling along at the yard sale, or somebody's called me and say, hey, I want you to come look through my grandparents' things. I don't have time to sell it. By the way, that's a little side note too. I've noticed that there are a lot of people who don't want to go through the marketing process. They don't want to go through the retail process. They don't want to go through going through homes, picking out what it is. They don't want to go through the marketing. Everybody loves Facebook marketing until it's time to do Facebook marketing. So that's kind of the thing that a lot of people don't want to fool with. They'll be more willing to sell you something at a cheaper price if you go through all the hassle of marketing it. So I'm strolling through an individual's grandparents' house. They passed away. They don't really want to do any marketing thing. And I come across this 2010 pie safe. This is probably a Middle Tennessee pie safe. The vendor is actually asking $2,600 for this particular piece. Walnut construction, 2010s. Very nice. You don't see many 2010 safes, and it's a really cool piece. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking in my store I can probably sell this particular piece for $2,000, but I don't know how long it's going to take me to sell it because not everybody is looking for a $2,000 piece of furniture. So I have to know where to be at when I make an offer on this particular piece. I like to be at about 50% on things like this, so I would probably offer somewhere in the $900 to $1,000 range. Now, at face value, you may think, EJ, you're making $1,000 on that person. I don't know that that's right. Well, the fact of the matter is the original owner doesn't have to market this. I have an extreme amount of overhead in my retail setting. I may have to sit on this piece for 2 years before it sells. So there has to be some risk-reward analysis there. So on this particular piece here, would love to have it, but I've got to invest heavily on it. I've got to invest at an amount in which I can find some return even when I add in my labor and my time and all the things that I'm going to have to do to market this piece. So the hatchet, you could be comfortable at 80% of retail. This particular piece, 40 to 50% of retail because of the time, effort, and expense that you're going to have in marketing it. So moving on, I'm at a yard sale. I run across a Tennessee-shaped license plate. Now, if you know me at all, you know that I absolutely love Tennessee-shaped license plates. That's my thing. There's also a video on our YouTube channel about Tennessee-shaped license plates. I know these probably as good as I know anything. I know that Greene County is pretty special to several of us collectors. I also know that 1941 is a pretty hard year. So if I run across this, I know that retail on this is probably going to be $225 or so, maybe $250 to the right person, especially if it were original paint instead of a repaint. I also know 4 or 5 people that I can sell this to immediately if I didn't want to keep it myself. This is actually from my collection, and I don't normally sell things from my collection, but I would be comfortable in paying $175, $150 to $175 for that because I know that I can flip it before I get to the shop. So there's not much risk there. Worst case scenario, I keep it, put it in my own collection, so I can afford to pay a little bit more for something that I know that I can move quickly. Same thing as the story with this. You'll find these oftentimes in a yard sale, at a yard sale or at the flea market or things like this. This is Amish butterprint Pyrex. This is a mixing bowl as opposed to a Cinderella bowl. A Cinderella bowl will have the handles, a little bit of a side note there. Amish butterprint is a very popular pattern right up there with pink gooseberry and things like that. My vendor has this particular bowl priced at $110 firm. Might be just a little bit on the high side, but there'll be people that buy that bowl. But I also know that I can, depends on how that I buy it, but I'm going to buy that bowl if it's not anything crazy. I'm going to buy that bowl at about any price because I know that I can sell it quickly if I can price it cheap enough. So if I pay $50 for that bowl at a yard sale, which really at a yard sale you should be able to get that bowl for 15 or 20 bucks. So if I get it for 20 bucks, I can sell it before I get to the store for 60, or I can put it in a retail setting and sit on it for a while for maybe 95 or 100. So it depends on how quick I need to return my profit. Last piece I'd like for you to look at is kind of a statement piece, or I may do one more piece, but this is a pretty cool piece. It is what's called a sugar press, and it is attributed to the Greene County Bergner family. The asking price on this particular piece is $4,800, but it is a very rare piece. So I run across this at an estate sale. I know that my market is limited, but the market that is there are serious buyers. So I can afford to pay up for this piece. A little bit of a side note on history, a sugar press is a piece of furniture that stored sugar. You can also see sugar tables, sugar presses, sugar chests, things like that. And maybe at a different video later we can do some attributes of local furniture and Bergner furniture and things like this. But sugar would be stored in here. This was a stately piece of furniture for the wealthy. And this is a highly sought after piece. Because I may have to sit on it a pretty good while, I couldn't go really much past 50% of what retail might be on this particular piece to be in it comfortable, unless it by chance is something that I'd be comfortable with keeping. I'll end you on this piece. I walk up at a yard sale and I find an official Matchbox collector's case. Now this case of its own is going to be worth $50 to $75, but the first thing I'm going to do if I see this case is I'm going to pick it up so nobody else gets it while I'm looking at it, and then I'm going to open it and see if there's any cards in it. This particular one does not have any cards in it because I've already sold the cards on eBay, which by the way is another marketing choice, but this is, again, this is a $50 to $75 case, but if there were by chance a Redline Hot Wheel in there that was in immaculate shape, then that particular car of its own would easily be worth $150. This particular case holds 80 or 40 maybe 40 cars. So if they were all immaculate Redlines, it'd be $4,000 worth of Matchbox cars in that particular case. Never, and I repeat, never walk by one of these at a yard sale. Grab it, and because most of the time they're not going to be priced at retail and they're just going to try to be getting rid of it. Now that being said, remember point number one, don't be a jerk and don't rip people off, and your business will grow a little bit better. If there's $4,000 worth of Hot Wheels in here and they've got this price for $5, the ethical thing would be to pay them just a little bit more. Now I realize that we've all got to make some money, and it's good to hit the home runs on occasion, but we still need to take care of our customers and do the right thing. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on answering the question, how do you do this? How are you a picker? How are you an antique dealer? How do you run an antique store? If you've got any questions, give me a yell. If you're ever in the Greenville, Tennessee area, swing by and see us.